Actually, first things first, let's do that. Let's do that. All right, I'm gonna do a quick review for Throne of Eldraine. So if you're going to a draft this weekend for the first time, it's your first time drafting Throne of Eldraine, and you need a quick, hey, what should I be aware of? This is for you. This is gonna be more advanced tips, so I'm assuming you know how to draft and you know the basics. This is not a beginner video. At some point, I might put up a beginner video. All right, so what do you need to know? Throne of Eldraine. What are my top 5 tips for Throne of Eldraine? Okay, let's start with this. So you're drafting. The first thing that you should know about Throne of Eldraine is you should know that there are a lot of knights. You should be aware of knights. But how do you prepare for these guys, right? Here. Well, and how many knights are there? Well, knights come in white, blue, and black, right? That means white, black, white, blue, or white, black, white, red. Sorry, white, red, black. White, red, white, black, black, red. 30% of your the 10 color pairs. And what you'll notice is the common and uncommon knights. They don't have very much health. Especially like if you look at like 1 to 3. 1 health, 1 health, 1 health, 1 health, 2 health, 2 health, 1 health. You know, not just very, very small. Like everything is really easy to deal with and it's manageable. But the thing that you'll notice is a lot of them have first strike mechanics and buff mechanics. And I think what people don't realize is that if you have 1 or 2 creatures that have 3 health, at least able to sideboard in, you'll be able to stop these guys relatively easily. But what ends up happening is a lot of the commons and uncommons that you're going to be taking only have 2 health, and because of that, these knights will often trade up, which is a big advantage for the knight player, or even if they just trade evenly, that's a big advantage for the knight player, because a lot of the knights, as you see, have adventure mechanics, right? Adventure mechanics all over the place. So because of that, cards that you normally wouldn't draft are things that you need to consider. I think like a great example is there's a blue artifact that costs 2. This guy. This guy's something that I'd never consider drafting ever, even if I'm in blue. Very rarely, right? There's a few like artifact mechanics. Maybe you draft it, but maybe holding 1 for your sideboard, like as a late pick, is something that you side in like really easy, and it will take care. It'll let you stabilize against all of those annoying knights. That's just a very, very, very clean mechanic. So just keep in mind the toughness of your creatures. Getting a few 3 toughness or 4 toughness creatures, at least even if they're not good, just having them in your sideboard can be very handy. So if you're deciding between like, there's a couple of bad green creatures in here, right? Like this green creature might not be playable, right? You might feel like you have a lot of cheap green creatures, and you might take like a card like there's a like you might take like a sideboard card like this if you feel like you already have enough 2-drops, right? Destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment. But if you have mostly 2 toughness creatures, right? Or worse, like you might be playing these main board. Having, you know, a 1/3 in your sideboard is really, really good to be able to stabilize against the knights. And the reason you need to be able to do it is because, again, 30% of the set are these knights, and you're going to be seeing a lot of them. So you just need to be ready for it. And if you're able to stabilize against them, then you can get out and go. The next thing worth noting is that if we go to the higher costed knights, there's an uncommon set of knights, which I believe they're all legendary. Here, how do I do this? There's a little cycle here of these knights. They're all fantastic. They are all very, 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 very fantastic. This is the other thing that I think you should note. This cycle of knights is phenomenal, 1 for each color. And what makes them so good and very, very first pickable is they are simply phenomenal on their own, and they don't commit you to anything. You know, you're not forced into any particular color pairs. You're not forced into playing aggressively or non-aggressively. With cheaper knights, sometimes you're forced into, you know, you're going to be pigeonholed. They're going to be best in an aggressive deck. These can either be finishers for an aggressive deck, or they can be phenomenal control cards. The only exception, the card that you don't see right now, is there's a green card, which I think costs 2. Yeah, he's the only one which is slightly more aggressive. He's probably the only one that isn't first pickable. I mean, if you have a terrible pack, maybe. But these knights are phenomenal. So keep that in mind. Have a plan against the knights, and just keep an eye out for these guys. Don't let your don't get caught up staring at a rare if you have one of these in your pack, because these cards are probably better. The next thing we're going to look at is there's a set of nobles, which I don't know, I think they all cost 3 roughly. Maybe they don't cost 3? I thought they were nobles. Oh, they're rare. Well, what am I doing? Okay. Oh, well, not counting this wonderful beast here. Right here, I think they're all legendary, so I can do that too. No, all right, I like noble better. All right, so this is the other mechanic of the set, and this is probably my second tip: is don't get caught up doing adamant. So adamant's the set is one of the main mechanics of the set. Don't get trapped into first picking these cards. They're, you know, all 3 mana costed cards. They're triple white, triple black, triple green. They inherently seem very, very good. I'm going to take Yorvo, which is probably a fantastic card and will easily see standard play. It's a 3 mana 4/4, and you just play another green creature and it becomes a 5/5. And if that creature is bigger than Yorvo, it becomes a 6/6. He's fantastic. He's probably the best of the 3 here. But the problem, the real big problem with this guy, is that he's a 3 mana 4/4 that probably doesn't come down on turn 3, because you need to have a lot of green, and that inconsistency is a problem. If I told you he ends up coming down when you have 3 green and you don't get 3 green until turn 5 or turn 6, well, now he's effectively a 6 mana 4/4 on curve, you know, or not on curve, but like he ends up, you know, coming down on turn 6 because you don't get 3 green mana until turn 6, because it's just really hard to get that much mana. Don't fall for that inconsistency trap. It's definitely a problem. And this is something that we'll get into later with Adamant completely. But you don't want to get trapped into thinking like, ooh, pack 1, pick 1 Yorvo, I'm gonna go mono green. It's a mistake to do that. There are times when you can try to play them anyway, if the pack is terrible, but just be very, very cautious around playing these cards. There are the 2 that aren't on here, which are a little bit better. I think they're 4 and... I think this guy's 4, right? Yeah, okay, the red one's 4, a little bit better, right? Because now, if he comes down on 4, not as big of a deal. It's easier to play 4 red on, or 3 red on turn 4 than it is to play 3 red on turn 3. And he's slightly better, and the one that's actually decent isn't a noble. What is he? A wizard, maybe? Okay, yeah, there he is. This is the only one that's decent. And he's not actually a 3-drop or a 4-drop. He can be a 3-drop, but if you don't, he can still be a 4-drop or a 5-drop. That X makes a huge difference, and he's the only one that's first pickable in my opinion, and pretty much a bomb. But let's get into Adamant and let's talk about it for a minute here. Is it E or A? Is it E? Okay, add. Spelling. Okay, there we go. Alright, so Adamant cards. Adamant cards in general are pretty bad. Actually, let me see if I can find an example. Let's go common, red, creature. Delete Adamant. Oh, maybe delete Throne of Eldraine. go to 4. 1. Okay, so let me see if I can find a solid example. I guess I can't really find a solid example. Bummer. Okay, I guess this is gonna work decently as an example. So for 3 colorless and 1 red, this is a common card from War of the Spark. You get a 4/1 haste, and this card was bad in War of the Spark. But you also get another mechanic, +1/+1. If this didn't have the additional +1/+1 on a target creature you control, I'd expect it to be right around a 4/2. That's what I was looking for. I feel like there's a 4/2 haste somewhere in this game. You can see like 3/3 haste is what you expect. Adamant cards in general, I'm just gonna use this guy as the example. If you don't play them with their adamant cost, they're bad. They're worse than what you would get for a non-adamant cost. You can also use. All right, let me switch back here. Eldraine. This is another great example. There are a countless number of 3-mana 2/2 flyers in the set. Paying 4 mana for a 2/2 flyer when it should cost 3 is terrible. It's just not good. And so just don't get tricked into playing these cards because again, same rule with all those nobles that I just showed. It's gonna be inconsistent getting these things to work. Now, they might end up being filler in your deck, but just realize that they're bad filler. Don't look at that adamant and think I can make this happen. Now, when is adamant good? When can we actually use it to our advantage? I would tell you that when you are drafting, and let's say you open pack 1, and you have a terrible rare. You just have no high end value. You open pack 2, you open pack 1, pick 2, and again you have no high value, so you're just kind of drafting kind of just marginal cards, right? Nothing super bomby. And then you get into pack 2, and you open it up, and again, no bomb. You're just like, okay, maybe some okay cards, but clearly if you go late game, most decks are going to outvalue you. And when you open that pack 2, pick 2, and you're still not given a bomb, at that point, now you might be able to use adamant to your advantage. That's when you can go, okay, I need to find value somewhere, and I couldn't find it in my initial packs, and I couldn't find an initial bomb that I can try to play around for my late game. At that point, if you want to try to force adamant and salvage a bad draft, so like right around pack 2, pick 2, that's when you can start going, okay, maybe I can make this happen and just hope to find mono whatever, insert color. But it's not something you ever want to force under any conditions. And I stand very vehemently behind that. So keep that in mind. The next thing, what to talk about next? Oh, we might as well talk about adventures. Adventure cards are everywhere, and they are phenomenal. They're like inherent 2-for-1 or 2-for-1s. Yeah, is that the word I'm looking for? And you need to keep that in mind because anything that can instantly interact to destroy the adventure part kills the card. This means any instant speed card. So like for example, I'm just going to take, I guess since Queen of Ice is right here, I'll use that as an example. Let's say they cast Rage of Winter, right, on one of your creatures. Normally your response would be, okay, I don't care. Whatever. That sucks. I guess my creature's tapped for a second. But that might now be something that you want to counter. You're like, okay, now I can counterspell this, and my creature's no longer tapped, and I no longer have to deal with this 2/3 later. Okay, you effectively deal with something in the future that you no longer have to deal with. Another example is there's a green card, which is like 6 or something. Here, this guy. No, this is not this guy. Hold on. Do I have... Yeah, I have 3 stuck on. That's why I couldn't find it. Uncommon? Alright, hold on. I'm going to find this card because now I'm tilted. Why do I have this not working? Oh, creature. Okay. Whatever, we'll use this as an example, but I'm gonna go find that other card in a second. Now target creature gets +2/+2. You might want to, you're more incentivized to instantly deal with that. There's also... Oh, I just have 4 selected. Here we go. This guy. This is the one I was looking for. Okay, so put 2 1/1 counters on a creature. That's something that you might otherwise not deal with, right? Sorcery speed, not a big deal. But if you know that you can counterspell it and you no longer have to deal with the 6/5 body, that's fantastic. So what does this mean? This means when you're drafting spells in general, instant speed cards are just phenomenal. Everyone's gonna value cards like baked into pie, like instant speed removal. That's probably not something I need to tell you should value more. But I think cards that counter spells generically should be slightly valued slightly higher than you normally would. And I think like bounce spells like run away together is a great example. I think bounce spells in general, you bounce their target and now you fizzled their +1/+1 counters and you fizzled their creature. Also, run away together, for example, and there's an uncommon 4 mana cost one. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Oh, here it is. Oh, it's right there. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, draw a card. So, like, not only can you use it to fizzle their own adventures, but you can use it to bounce your own adventures as well, to just get additional value. Because if you're bouncing cards that you might otherwise not, like late in the game, you can go for the mill mechanic and you can bounce and mill more. You can mill, play this guy, have him be a defender, and maybe there's not a card that you want to bounce. Maybe you can bounce your own guy and reapply your adventure again. So bounce mechanics all have additional effects. Counter spells they're worth slightly more because of adventures being in the set, in my opinion. And that's something that you should note. So I think that covers most of it, right? Be ready for knights. Be ready for knights. Be ready for adventures. Be ready for... Oh. Here we go. The other thing worth noting is I guess there's no way to show you this. There are no board sweeps at the common or uncommon level that I know of. I swear to God, if I'm missing one, please let me know. But there's no like Cry of the Canarium or Flame Sweep or Gates Ablaze. Getting a lot of the creatures on board is really, really good. The other thing to note is that this is probably more worth noting, especially after coming off of M20, is there's not a lot of trample. This is it, right? Like at common and uncommon level, let me make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, I have everything. We're looking at a buff to only non-human buffs for trample. An enchantment that's pretty eh. This is only trample until end of turn. This is only trample until end of turn. This trample has a requirement that you tap a creature. This is the only natural trample in the entire set. Only natural trample that's even decent. That's pretty good. Like you're no longer dealing, like if I switch this to like M20, no longer dealing with like this type of trample where end up giving it to that 7/7 from last set or Silverback Shaman trample. Like those are a lot scarier than what we're dealing with in Throne of Eldraine. And this means inherently chump blocking is a lot easier, which means tokens go up slightly in value because there's less tramplers in the set than normal. And then on top of that, there's no board sweeps. So keep in mind, I think it's red and blue. There's two main token generators for the set in red and blue. This is the first one. I think this card should probably be pretty high in this set. I imagine it to be. It's the draw an additional card. The other one is a red spell that's uncommon. Ratman. Whenever you draw your second spell each turn, put 2 1/1 rats into play. Those are the two main ones. There's a few other. I think there's a white vigilance guy, which I rated slightly higher now than I initially would. I thought it would be terrible, but it ends up being okay. It's this guy. It seems pretty bad, right? Three mana, you get a 2/2, and then on 5 mana, you get a 3/3 vigilance. It seems pretty meh. I rate it slightly higher because you don't really have to worry about those board sweeps, and going wide is just super effective. So I think that's going to cover it for now. Those will be my tips. So be ready for knights, be cautious about adamant, rate your instant speed spells better for adventures, go wide, go wide, and hopefully that should prepare you for Eldraine a little bit. Enjoy, guys. Good luck.